Greetings and welcome to part 9 of our Stanley Plotkins legal deposition watch-along. Otherwise known as this live stream is known as the second sign, and each Sunday for the last 8 weeks, although I did have to take an intermission last week, a forced break from our watch-along, as YouTube deemed part 8 to be to go against medical misinfo. They said it was against something said in that live stream is against policy. So that you can still watch it though, or there are still a couple of places you can find the stream, and we'll have a look at them before we start this evening's watch along. Yeah, if we bring up our display, you'll see my BitChute channel, where everything I put up on YouTube eventually seems to get uploaded to BitChute, because I've linked my account with them or something, which is ideal really. However, for some reason part 3 hasn't uploaded to BitChute, so the only place you can watch all 8 parts of the deposition is on Rumble. All but one part is in a YouTube playlist, however, and so yeah, it is viewable over there. Right, we're gonna carry along. If you were watching us on YouTube, you would have been able to watch the pre-show, in which we watched the last sort of 10 minutes of part 8, in which they were talking about how some of the vaccines are grown, what they use, cells. Yeah, this content, this legal deposition is full of some very sort of technical information. We're looking at somebody who considers himself an expert witness when it comes to whether or not a child should be vaccinated. He offers his opinion in a court case between two parents. One of them, they've had to go to court. Anyway, some interesting stuff came up about how they had to remove the kidneys of the animals they used when they were still live. They couldn't take organs from a monkey they were actually talking about in part 8. It's pretty disgusting stuff. Anyone who is against cruelty to animals, I would have thought, might have a reason not to want to use. Anyway, but yeah, of course, I did say in the pre-show that I'm not going to offer. We're just going to stick to what gets said. I'm not going to offer any of my opinions in case YouTube mistake it for me giving medical advice. Of course, I would never do that. Certainly not on a YouTube channel. So hopefully no more parts. Hopefully part 9 will stay up. I reckon we've got one more after this. We've got part 9 and 10. And we'll then follow that with a Stanley Plotkins quiz, which I've mentioned in the past. So yeah, this is probably the penultimate part of the legal deposition watch-along. Okay, yeah, we've just got at the end of part 8, we got to the point where Stanley, legal representative, said they had another thing they had to go to, and they were getting into an argument about whether they were going to end the trial there. I mean, that's what they want. Stanley wants to be out of this thing as quickly as possible. He absolutely flat out refuses to come back for a second day of questioning. So, from what I remember, she goes. Stanley's legal representative leaves him to be questioned without any, without counsel, as it were. That would be Laura Nua, who tries to bring it to a halt. And they were just getting to the point where they were saying, Stanley, you're going to have to come back for a second day. He refuses, so they just compromise. I think Stanley's like, well, does she even need to be here? She's not actually offered much. The man's voice, who we hear questioning Stanley, is called Aaron Siri. You also hear the voice of Amy Ruby. Both of these are co-counsel for the plaintiff, which is the mother who is taking the father to court to stop their child having Stanley's treatment. And yeah, Stanley is claiming he is a neutral, independent witness. Okay, so we will carry on with that. Yeah, we do have live chats, by the way. I've had a couple of problems getting the live chat on the screen on the last couple of videos I've done, so we might get it up there. We will see. Okay, part 10, yeah. Sorry, part 9. Here we go.
I don't know. The notice says from day to day. He's under subpoena. He needs to be here today. It's only 5 o'clock, and it says from day to day. So tomorrow's the next day.
If he's not available, he's not available. You guys can feel free to try and have him held in contempt while he's in Pennsylvania, but I gotta go.
How long are you available in a half an hour or something that we could take a short break?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, so then let us know when you're done. Half an hour. We'll start at 5:30 then, or if you get done earlier.
What, does she have to be present?
Do you mind if we continue without you being present? Dr. Plotkins says he's fine with continuing without you.
As long as he's okay with that, that's fine with me. I think he's got a pretty good handle on things, so I'm not too concerned.
Okay, great. Then we'll continue.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Newsome, if you wanted to rejoin the conversation, obviously you can dial back in, so.
Yeah, I'm just going to leave you guys on speaker in my office and do this in the conference room, and I'll be back.
Okay.
Joining vaccines on the childhood.
Okay, at this point, if you were the plaintiffs and this guy's legal counsel just walked out the room, wouldn't you be sort of rubbing your hands thinking, right, this is where we'll try and sneak in some of these questions that we may not have got away with? We'll see. We'll watch on.
The vaccine schedule contain MRC5 human diploid cells.
Yes.
What are these?
Rubella, varicella, hepatitis A. Let's see.
This is, by the way, ingredients in the vaccines that he's listing now, all these human cells that they put in.
What are MRC5 cells?
They are human fibroblast cell strain.
Okay, and how were they created?
They were created by taking fetal tissue and from a particular fetus that was aborted by maternal choice, and the cells, the so-called fibroblast cells, were cultivated.
Now, I don't know if Aaron is suddenly, bringing out the big guns. He's asking Stanley about cells that come from aborted fetuses. Excuse me for laughing. This isn't no joke. It's look at the look on Stanley's face. I think that says it all. He knows how disgusting what he's talking about is. But anyway, yeah, well, let's carry on and let's hear Stanley, what he's explaining here. Aborted fetuses, cells are being used, or they make these cells from aborted fetuses. Wow.
From that tissue, the fibroblast cells replicate for about 50 passages and then die.
So MRC5 cells are the cultured cell lines from aborted fetal tissue?
They're not cell lines.
What are they?
Cell strains cultivated from an aborted fetus, yes.
So cell strains from an aborted fetus?
Yeah, they're not immortal.
Okay, so they live for 5 generations and then they die?
About 50.
Okay, so he's saying that the cell lines and cell strains not immortal, because in the previous part we were hearing about regenerative cells, cells that will continue regenerating themselves, and it was also brought up that cells that do such a thing are actually considered cancerous. But yeah, you'd have to go back and watch part 8, not on YouTube because it's been YouTube removed it, but you can watch it on BitChute and Rumble at part 8 of this deposition for information on that.
50 generations.
About 50 generations, and then they die.
Yes.
And then how is more MRC5 created?
Well, a seed stock is made of early passage cells so that one can go back to the seed stock, which is, let's say, at the more or less the 8th passage, and make new cells at the 20th passage and use those to make the vaccine.
Okay. And so these cell strains are human cells.
Yes.
Okay. Do any vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule contain WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts?
Well, they used to, but I don't think anything is made in those cells anymore. They've been replaced by MRC5.
So you're not aware of any vaccine that has in its final formulation WI38 human diploid lung fibroblasts?
Well, as I said, at one point in the past, RA273, for example, rubella vaccine was grown in WI38, but the supply is insufficient, so MRC5 is now used.
Okay. And
Make no mistake, these are cells from aborted fetuses, unfortunately.
these and WI38 was created from an aborted fetus?
Yes.
They took the lung tissue from the aborted fetus,
Yes.
and from that they've grown this cell line, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Cell strain.
Cell strain. And okay. Is this cell line immortal?
No.
Do any vaccines on the childhood vaccine schedule contain human albumin?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is human albumin?
Human albumin is part of human serum.
And what is human serum?
What is human serum? Human serum is part of the blood that is liquid.
Right. It's the non-red blood cell part of the
Yes.
blood, right? From where was it obtained?
The human serum?
Yes.
Well, that would be variable from donors who are healthy donors. That's all I could say to that.
Healthy donors is all Stanley will let us know. By the way, obviously, there is a commandment in the Holy Scriptures telling us not to eat blood or take blood in any way, and it's obviously an important part of some people's outlook on theology, I guess you could say, and is a very valid reason for somebody to refuse, to have an exemption on the grounds that, well, the Holy Scriptures tell us not to take blood. No doubt other faiths, the literature of other faiths probably also say likewise, but particularly the Bible definitely has a commandment.
How is it used in the manufacturing process?
I'm sorry?
How is it used in the manufacturing process?
Well, serum is used to keep cells healthy during the process of making a vaccine. So in other words, since the vaccines, or some vaccines, have to be grown in cells, you have to keep the cells in a good state.
What was that, Stanley? He just suddenly stopped, so blasé about answering this question that he looked at his phone and saw a joke. Is that what happened there, or was that his legal counsel suddenly texting him saying, "Stanley, shut up, mate. Stop giving them all this information." Who knows?
So the cells that are used, the virus or bacteria, the virus is used in some of the the virus is used in some of the vaccines are grown in this human blood component.
Well, yes, I believe that the serum is removed in the final product, but certainly it's important to keep the cells healthy during the manufacture of the vaccine.
Do you think that, so none of it remains in the final product?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, because that could be problematic, right?
Well, it could be. I mean, if the individual is not healthy.
Right, or if maybe some of the, human blood components bind to some of the aluminum and develop antibodies, self-antibodies, correct?
If they develop antibodies against a serum component, that would not be good.
Right. What do any vaccines contain human material in them that? I'm sorry, strike that. Apologies. Do any vaccines in the child?
Don't worry, Aaron. It doesn't look like he's listening to you anyway. Maybe this would be quite a good time for Aaron to start trying to get him to slip up, because he's clearly not paying attention to what he's being asked.
The vaccine schedule contain recombinant human albumin.
Yes.
Okay, what is this?
Sorry?
What is recombinant human albumin?
It's albumin.
Sorry, recombinant human albumin. That's ALBUMIN.
I believe we've just heard it's the serum for blood, isn't it? Haven't they already established that? Maybe this is something slightly different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a component of human serum which is useful to stabilize cells and keep them healthy. Okay. And it's made by genetic engineering.
Okay, so it's genetically engineered human serum, basically.
A part of human serum, yes.
Yeah, Aaron, you let that one just hang there a minute. They're genetically modifying humans. Well, it's again another controversial thing that, like, for all sorts of morality reasons, should we be, be genetically modifying genes?
Are these genetically engineered protein structures?
Yes, and the idea was to eliminate any possibility of a contaminant from human albumin obtained from donors. So it's made in cells using the DNA for albumin, and that way one can be sure that there's no contaminant.
And again, you pretty much want to make sure that none of that remained in the final product too, right?
Well, human albumin is probably not much of a problem in terms of causing reactions. So,
but in terms of it potentially binding to the alum, that could be problematic, correct?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Because, of course, we've already established in the past that Stanley's not interested in any safety tests. He, some of the previous parts went into detail about how the testing's done, standards that Stanley would consider valid for a test, like there would have to be a control group, the people that receive, that are tested on are randomized, and He also considers it completely immoral, even for the purposes of safety standards, that any child should not take his product. We do also find out that Stanley earns a lot of money from the sale and use of vaccines.
The vaccines that contain human material in them, they also contain human DNA and protein, correct?
They may, yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that human DNA in vaccines is typically purposely fragmented to below 500 base pairs in length?
Yes, one doesn't, I would say mostly for theoretical reasons, doesn't want to put DNA into intact DNA into vaccines.
He said theoretical reasons, meaning that I wonder if, well, perhaps he meant to use that word, I don't know. I wonder if he meant to say theological reasons or something else, but he said theoretical, almost as if, it's all there's no proof of that you wouldn't want human DNA, but above a particular, I'm not sure how they measure it, but a certain quantity or a certain length, they seem to measure it, DNA in length. You wouldn't want too much going into another human just for theoretical reasons.
Okay.
I think the actual risk is zero, but that's my opinion.
That the risk is zero is just Stanley's opinion. He can't back it up with anything. He will not be presenting you any tests or studies that will confirm his words that there's zero risk. Just his opinion.
Isn't it true that MMR2 contains approximately 150 nanograms cell substrate, double-strand DNA, and single-strand DNA per dose, purposely fragmented to approximately 215 base pairs in length?
Yeah, that's probably correct, yes.
Okay. And is it true that Varivax, vaccine for chickenpox, is manufactured using WI38 and MRC5 and contains approximately 2 micrograms of cell substrate? No problem. And
Just wait for the whole thing too, Doctor, please.
And contains approximately 2 micrograms of cell substrate, double-stranded DNA, or approximately 1 trillion fragments of human DNA?
It may be true.
Okay. Isn't it true that Havrix, a hepatitis A vaccine, also contains millions of fragments of human DNA?
Likely.
Do you know whether strands of DNA below 500 base pairs are now known to insert themselves into living cells with which they come into contact?
I do not have that information, but the likelihood that they would be genetically included in the genome of vaccinees, in my view, is zero.
Do you have a study to support that view?
I do not have a study that supports that view, but it is, to me, unlikely that the DNA would travel from the site of injection to the semen or the ovaries.
Very technical line of questioning. A lot of that went over my head, actually. But it ended up with Stanley dismissing the possibility. No one actually mentioned ovaries or semen. Maybe it's suggesting that DNA being injected could alter future offspring. I think that's possibly what it was referring to.
Could it insert itself into DNA and even in the muscle tissue, or if it gets into the blood, into...
Theoretically, but that's not going to mean that it's going to have any impact on the individual.
Are you familiar with insertional mutagenesis?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any study to show that injecting millions of pieces of human DNA into babies and children is safe?
The only studies are all the safety studies that have been done on vaccines.
And you can produce those studies, right?
Well, those studies are available from the manufacturers and from CDC, and I'm not aware of any data showing that a heritable characteristic was transmitted by a vaccine.
Mm-hmm. So you don't personally don't know of any study that shows the safety of injecting millions of pieces of human DNA into babies?
Such studies are general safety studies, and I haven't yet seen a vaccinee develop a new genetic trait as a result of vaccination.
It's possible that it can cause cancer.
Anything is possible, but there are no data to support that.
Is there data to show that it doesn't do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Observations made over millions of vaccinees.
If there was data to support that it doesn't cause cancer, then surely Stanley, when he was asked, is it possible it caused cancer, would say, no, we have studies done that show that does not happen. Stanley's saying millions of vaccinees are the proof that they don't cause cancer. Have you seen how high numbers are of people being diagnosed with cancer? It's frightening. They're frighteningly high, unfortunately, the chance of people being diagnosed now with cancer. Obviously, it depends how often you go and allow them to give them the chance to tell you you've got cancer, but I mean, if you never get screened, you'll never be diagnosed with it, which obviously is not medical advice in any way.
Okay, and you have the study to show that, right?
The studies are easily available in terms of vaccine safety studies that have been done by many, many people.
Excellent. Then it should be very easy for you to direct each of those and provide copies.
Yes, you can
Wonderful.
read the chapter on vaccine safety.
That, of course, is in Stanley Plotkins' book. We've looked at it in previous episodes. Over £250 for a copy of Plotkins' vaccines. And Stanley's answer to a lot of question when it's come up to, well, you can support that there's been studies into this that show that your product is safe. He will frequently direct Aaron to buying a copy of his book. He won't present it off the back of it.
Vaccines contain dead or weakened poliovirus, correct?
IPV does, yes.
Okay. Beginning in the 1950s, polio vaccines were routinely grown on non-human primate kidney cells, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of any simian, monkey, viruses, meaning viruses that come from primates, that contaminated polio vaccines and infected individuals receiving the polio vaccine?
Yes, SV40.
Okay. And what does SV40 stand for?
Simian virus 40.
Okay. And was it the 40th simian virus found? Is that why
Yes.
it's called? Okay. Are you aware of any other simian viruses that are in any vaccine?
At this stage, no.
Okay. Are you aware of any bovine virus that is in any vaccine?
I would say if he's not aware of them, he would just flat out say, no, I'm not aware. Bear in mind what's being said here. The cells used, bovine or apes, conditions that can affect these creatures are being passed on to humans who are taking this treatment, or at least it did with the polio vaccine.
Bovine virus. Nothing comes to mind at the moment.
Are you aware of any virus from any animal other than simian or bovine that is in any vaccine?
Yes, there's a pig virus present in one of the rotavirus vaccines.
What's that virus called?
Circovirus.
Circo.
Yes.
Is there more than one type, or is there only one?
Oh, there's more than one type, but I think only one was recovered from the vaccine.
Which one is that?
I think it was two.
Circovirus 2?
I think so.
Are you aware of any retroviruses that are in any vaccine?
Retroviruses? No.
You aware of any prions that are in any vaccine?
No.
Are you aware of any human...
Is it worth looking that up? Retrovirus and pro... I'm not 100% sure what a retrovirus is. A type of virus that inserts a DNA copy of its RAN genome into the host cell that it invades, thus changing the genome of that cell. Wow, okay.
viruses that are in any vaccine apart from the virus for which the vaccine is intended?
No.
You indicated that they did find a porcine circovirus type 2 in rotavirus, correct?
Yes.
Was that unintentional?
Yes.
When it was released to the market, they didn't know that virus was in there, correct?
Correct.
And then when they released the polio vaccine on the market, they didn't know SV40 was in there, correct?
Correct.
Are you aware of how many micrograms of 2-phenoxyethanol? How do you pronounce it?
2-phenoxyethanol.
Yeah. Are you aware of how many micrograms of 2-phenoxyethanol a child following the childhood vaccine schedule would be injected with?
No, I'd have to look that up.
Do you think it's close to around 100 micrograms?
It could be, but I'd have to look it up.
Do you know the safe level in terms of that ingredient?
I am not aware that there is toxicity associated with 2-phenoxyethanol. It's a fairly harmless substance as far as I'm aware.
Do you know any vaccines on the childhood schedule that include ferric nitrate?
Ferric nitrate? No, I don't recall that.
Are you aware of how many micrograms of polysorbate 80 a child following the vaccine schedule will be injected with?
I don't have the amount, no.
Polysorbate. Let's have a quick look to see what that is. Is a class of emulsifiers used in some pharmaceuticals and food preparation. They're commonly used in oral or topical pharmaceutical dosage forms. They're often used in cosmetics to stabilize essential oils into water-based products. An oily liquid. Okay.
Now, I'm going to give you back Exhibit 40, Dr. Plotkin. Take a look at that a moment. You indicated that you weren't aware that WI-38 was in the final vaccine product. If you could turn to page 3 for MMR and MMRV. Do you see that within the ingredient list that lists WI-38, human diploid lung fibroblasts?
Yes, I do see that.
Okay. I believe that of the ingredients that we discussed till now, the rest of them you indicated you are aware are in vaccines except for, are there any ingredients we've discussed till now that you believe are not in vaccines?
Well, I'd have to go back over all the questions you asked, but I do want to say that WI-38, as I said before, was the original fibroblast cell line, and I think that manufacturers have shifted to MRC5, but WI-38 could still be used, and I don't see anything wrong with that.
The reason he's having to say, there's nothing wrong with WA38. Remember, that was tissues taken from an aborted fetus. I mean, I'm not sure what they're suggesting this new one is, whether that's another aborted fetus or what, but yeah, it would appear that despite what Stanley said, they certainly are still using these cells.
Okay. Are there any vaccine ingredients that are not listed on the FDA's official vaccine excipient and media summary table that you're aware of?
I don't see how I can really answer that question without reading the whole thing, but I imagine that it's a complete list.
Okay. Isn't it true that an adjuvant will bind not only to the target antigen, but also to the impurities and byproduct of the manufacturing process?
Probably yes.
Okay. Okay, and those impurities and byproducts are all listed in what has been marked as exhibit number 40, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Once the impurities or byproducts are bound to the aluminum, the body may also develop antibodies to these impurities and byproducts, correct?
May is the operative word, but not necessarily.
Okay. The entire purpose of the aluminum binding to a protein structure, be it an antigen or some other protein structure, is to cause an immune response that will develop antibodies, correct?
Yes, but the protein has to be of the right size and presentation in order to induce an immune response. Mm-hmm. And that will not always be the case if the protein is small or is something not recognized by the human immune system.
Mm-hmm. Do you know whether the protein structure for any of the ingredients on Exhibit 40 are not the right size to bind to alum?
Well, I think it's unlikely that monosodium glutamate, for example, will cause an immune response. I have to look through the whole thing, but amino acids probably are unlikely to induce an immune response.
Anything else?
You want me to read this whole thing?
Well, no, I'm just asking, I mean, in terms of just the stuff that's got protein structures in it.
Well, things like calf serum, if they were present, would possibly induce an immune response. But the things on this list, the vast majority of them are unlikely to do so.
Because they're not protein structures.
They're not proteins, or they're very small.
Okay. Other than the strike that.
By the way, an immune response, does that mean that you become ill? Is that, I'm assuming, what an immune response is? That your body's releasing the chemicals, whatever it needs to fight off a virus, sorry. Slip of the tongue there. I wonder if that's what an immune response is.
How about, and we talked earlier, human albumin, that would be of a big enough protein structure to bind to alum, correct?
It could, although the fact that it's human means that individuals might well not respond to, that is, not respond to human albumin as a foreign protein.
Right, maybe not alone, right, but bound to alum, then it might, correct?
It might, but I'm not aware of evidence that it does.
Are you aware of a study that looked at that issue?
I have not read such a study, no.
No, Stanley really doesn't concern himself with safety studies. He is much more... unless this big gulp of water he is about to take is a tell, and he's actually saying, we'll see. Perhaps he is aware of one. I think that would be the image we use on the Part 10 thumbnail, him about to chug down a glass of water.
Okay. How about the human DNA? Do you believe that the human DNA strands can bind to the alum?
No.
Why is that?
I don't see any chemical reason why it should.
Any reason why it shouldn't?
Proving a negative is always more difficult.
Well, I'm just trying to know if you know or you're not sure. That's all. I'm not asking. I'm just saying if you don't know, just say you don't know. That's
I have
fine.
no reason to believe that DNA will bind to albumin.
But you don't know for sure.
I have not done the experiment, no.
Okay. And do you know whether it will bind to any of the cellular debris from MRC5 or WI38?
Whether human albumin would bind?
No, whether alum would bind to MRC5 or any of the cellular debris that's in the final product from MRC5.
I think it could, but I don't know that it does.
Do you know whether alum could bind to any of the cellular debris from WI38?
It might, but I don't know that for a fact.
Do you know whether alum would bind to any of the gelatin from pigs?
I think that's unlikely.
Why is that?
I don't think that alum will bind to gelatin, but I don't know that for a fact.
What about egg protein? Could alum bind to egg protein?
Possibly.
Okay. And to casein?
I suppose it's possible, but I'm not aware of any evidence.
Which you don't know.
I don't know.
By the way, right at the end of the last, in the last 10 minutes of the previous part, they were saying how when these things that they bind get into the system, it can cause a child or a person in general to become have an allergy against, say, products from cows, dairy products. Again, I would recommend watching part 8 if you can find it, but you won't find it on YouTube.
Okay. Okay. In your work related to vaccines, how many fetuses have been part of that work?
My own personal work, 2.
2. So in all of your work related to vaccines throughout your whole career, you've only ever worked with 2 fetuses?
In terms of making vaccines, yes.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. So at least for making the vaccines, he's only ever dealt with 2 fetuses. But yeah, he's probably dealt with an awful lot more.
Yes.
I'm gonna hand you. I'm gonna hand you what's been marked Plaintiff's Exhibit 41. Okay. Are you familiar with this article, Dr. Plotkin?
By the way, before we go into this article, we are actually going to go to an intermission in a moment. We'll be streaming probably at the absolute longest another hour. However, I do need to refill my drink, go and use the facilities, check on what's going on in the other areas, because I hear bumps and whatnot. I don't know what's going on down there. I need to go down and have a look. But I am going to leave you with a video. So bear in mind, the point we've got to in this deposition is Stanley's been asked how many fetuses he has dealt with. And in the production of vaccines, he's only used 2. So we will come back to that in a second. Let's go. Right, we've got some information on the screen. We're going to have a quick intermission. By the way, if anyone is actually tuned in tonight, either over on YouTube or on Rumble, and you want to say hello in the live chat, it would be wonderful to know you're there. Although I am aware that this series of live streams that I've done looking at Stanley Plotkins, they're not very popular people, but I've got to finish them. We've only got a couple left, so I've actually done, I've attempted as a YouTuber or content producer, I've attempted quite a few projects over the years where I've tried to do a series of things, and often I don't finish them. Like my Act Short series, where I was going to look at a whole load of soap actors. What else did I do? I was going to do 24 episodes of the Bobsy Hour to create a Bobsy Day. I stopped at episode 20, so I'm not going to stop just because the numbers aren't particularly good for people watching these videos. I do want this watch along out there. Even if YouTube do eventually take them all down for medical misinfo, they'll still be up on Rumble and BitChute, all being well. Right, I've got an old video. Well, it's not that old, actually. I'm going to change it. I was going to do one about all the times Buzz Lightyear went to the moon. These 3 strange admissions Buzz Aldrin made. It actually goes on for 12 minutes, and I'm only going to be about, at the very most, probably about 8 minutes. Yeah, we'll watch that. I was going to do one about going back to soaps, because I did one. Yeah, I'm going to do the one about soaps. It's about Coronation Street and the Fourth Wall. I did recently put out a video, by the way, about soap operas, about Coronation Street sharing medical misinformation. And a few people have left comments on my recent video saying that, oh no, the character it's about organ donation, and it's not a million miles away from some of what's been discussed, particularly in part 8, where they were talking about having to take organs from apes while they're still alive because they can't take them. Anyway, that's what was brought up, and people have said, oh no, Paul's not committing suicide now because he wants to donate organs. That's not quite how I remember it, but I was a few episodes behind Coronation Street, so yeah, they have progressed the subject. So the next live stream I do on Thursday, unless I come back and do one before, we'll be looking at that subject. But anyway, yeah, this is a video, quite an old one, about the Fourth Wall. Where is it? I'm sure we'll find it. Martin Hett's Fourth Wall. It goes on for about 7.5, or just under 8 minutes. And I think it's quite an old video. Martin Hett's Fourth Wall is certainly a very old video of mine, from probably back in 2018, I think I made it, but I might have well revisited it and updated it if it was back in the news. Okay, so here is a video, 7.5 minutes. When we come back, we'll watch another 30 minutes, probably about another 20 minutes of the deposition before we bring this stream to a close. Okay, I'll go and grab my drink and I'll be back with you in a second. Or let me line it up. What's going on there? Yeah, this video is called something along the lines of Martin Het's Fourth Wall. I'll have a look for it. I'll share a link to it in the description. Let me see, can I find it quickly on my own channel? Right. And Martin Het. Does it come up? Coronation Street tribute to Martin Het. I think it's a more recent one than that, but I could be wrong. Okay, we'll find out. Enjoy this video, and I'll be back in about 7 minutes.
It's a lovely bench, isn't it?
It is. It's just a crying shame it even has to be here.
5 years on Sunday.
I know.
Could have been any one of us, couldn't it? Any one of us from this street.
What about kids? Grandkids?
They went out for a concert and they never came back. Oh, Lily loves Ariana Grande.
Oh, don't, Gail. It doesn't bear thinking about. Look at us two being civil with each other.
Yeah, well, some things are bigger than you and me, Eileen. Come on, together.
That piece of vomit-inducing rubbish that we just watched was from an episode of Coronation Street on the 20th of May 2022 to mark the 5th year anniversary of the MEN arena bombing. It puts me in mind of a video I made back in March 2018 in which I suggested that Coronation Street were either building or breaking the fourth wall. If you're not familiar with the fourth wall, it is a term used in television where you're in a fictional setup and one of the character breaks the illusion and, say, looks at the camera and makes a joke. For example, reference in real life, breaking the illusion that these characters are separate from the world of entertainment. For example, in Coronation Street, the actor that plays Tim Metcalf supposedly goes out with the actress that plays Abby, and it would be like another character saying, "Oh, you two would make a good couple," looking around at the camera and then winking. It would sort of break the illusion because it would be referencing something in the outside world, outside the universe of Coronation Street, and they call that breaking the fourth wall. We are going to watch that video that I made back in 2018 in a minute, but just leading up to that, I want to point out that when I originally asked, is it breaking or is it building the fourth wall? Because Martin Het was supposedly a Coronation Street super fan. He had videos that went viral about the characters. So when Coronation Street do a plaque dedicated to Martin Het, they are very much breaking the fourth wall. However, I would say no, they're not. They're just building it that little bit further because the whole story of Martin Het and the MEN arena is straight out of mainstream media and is just another scripted piece of drama, just like Coronation Street. So it is very fitting that the characters of Coronation Street include it. Some of them turned up at Martin Het's funeral. Particularly Gail, you'd have to ask the question, is it just coincidence that she looks exactly like her character? If you were to believe the pictures we see of these characters outside of the soap, you would think they don't even need makeup. They just walk in off the street and start filming without anything being done to them. They don't all wear wig, prosthetics or anything put on them. In most cases, they even wear the same style of clothes. for either one of two reasons. Either Coronation Street don't have a makeup department, or the same makeup department prepared them for this funeral. Here's my old video from 2018 called Coronation Street, Building or Breaking the Fourth Wall. As always, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, and I'll see you in the comment section. Hi everyone, I just wanted to bring to your attention this article in the Huffington Post. The link will be in the description. It is about Coronation Street, a British soap opera unveiling a new set, and it includes a tribute to the Manchester bombing victims. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term breaking the fourth wall, but it's something that goes on here. If we read down, the allotment area features a tribute to the victims of the Manchester bombing in May 2017, particularly Martin Hett, who is a renowned Coronation Street superfan, making several media appearances in his life due to his love of the soap. As a tribute to Martin, the creator of the viral Audrey Roberts Noise video, the ribbon was cut on the new set by Corrie star Sue Nichols, who even indulged those in attendance, including Martin's family, with a bout of the inquisitive sound that has become so associated with the character. So they really entwined the whole story of Martin Hett into this opening of the set. And like I say, it breaks the fourth wall because it references something which shows it to be a soap. Interesting part of the video, someone makes a cameo appearance, Martin Hett's father, less than a year after losing his son. You can see in this video how distraught he still is, still struggling to come to terms with it, and he's bravely come out and made this media appearance. Look how sad he is. Just here is the plaque. To Martin and all those who lost their lives on the 22nd of May 2017, we stand together.
We know that every time Coronation Street's on now, that
Look at him, he looks absolutely distraught.
she'll be there, and we've already been told by the cast there's going to be many storylines with people on the bench there. And also today we brought some of Martin's ashes with us, and the family are going to scatter some ashes.
Right, I think it's very interesting the next bit we hear, because it sums up this whole thing.
Later on, so he'll be there all the time.
Laughing in your face, pure mockery. I'm going to include at the end of this video my video about Martin Hett's theatrical funeral. That was in the words of his mother, just to give you my views on that if you're not already familiar with it. And we'll just watch all these people laugh.
Question, are you all the umbrellas down?
Yeah. Also happy and no sign of the tragedy which these people must feel for the loss of all these people. As you read down, you see that they've sold off parts of the set to what they call product placement deals with Costa and the co-ops, meaning that anyone with money could have paid the production company to put their little thing in. Was that what happened with Martin Hett's tribute plaque, or was it a genuine tribute, or is it just a product placement? Is it breaking the fourth wall, or is it actually supporting the fourth wall, that mixing, blurring the lines between truth, reality, fiction? Who knows? Your comments and questions are welcome, and thanks very much. Okay, that was our intermission. We're now back with the stream, so we will get back on with Stanley, who has just claimed he's only ever worked with two aborted fetuses in his time creating vaccines, and he's just been marked an exhibit, a report which I wonder if that might contradict his words. We will see.
Yes.
Okay. Are you listed as an author on this article?
Yes.
Okay. This study took place at the Wistar Institute, correct?
Yes.
You were at the Wistar Institute, correct?
Yes.
How many fetuses were used in the study described in this article?
Quite a few, but my answer to the previous question was, what did I use to make vaccines? And the answer...
quite a few, certainly isn't a number. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhat horrible, like hundreds or thousands even. He was asked how many fetuses has he worked with I'm not sure if Stanley's trying to change the original question. We'll see.
Was 2.
Can you read back the question I had asked?
Just now?
No, prior.
In your work related to vaccines, how many fetuses have been part of that work? Answer: my own personal work, 2.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that question again. In your work related to vaccines, how many fetuses were involved in that work?
There were only 2 fetuses involved in making vaccines when...
Yeah, Stanley definitely wants to answer a different question. He doesn't want to tell us how many aborted fetuses he's worked with in the study, in his time working with vaccines.
Fetal strains, fibroblast strains, were first developed. I was involved in that work trying to characterize those cells, but they were not used to make vaccines.
Wasn't the purpose of this study to help develop a human cell line, or to support the use of human cell lines in the creation of vaccines?
The idea was to study the cell strains from fetuses to determine whether or not they could be used to make vaccines.
Okay. So this was related to your work?
Well, yes, in a sense,
to
yes.
vaccines, correct?
Yes. It was preparatory.
Are we ever going to find out how many he worked with? It's certainly more than 2, and in Stanley's words, quite a few. I'm just curious if we'll actually hear how many.
So this study involved 74 fetuses, correct?
Oh, I don't remember exactly
Okay, there we go. 74. Thank you, Aaron.
how many.
Turn to page 12 of the study.
Yeah, 76.
76.
Mm-hmm.
And these fetuses were all 3 months or older when aborted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these were all normally developed fetuses, correct?
Yes.
Okay. These included fetuses that were aborted for social and psychiatric reasons, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Social and psychiatric reasons. So parents who were deemed to have psychiatric problems. By the way, this is going on about I'm guessing in the 60s, I think a lot of the work that Stanley did, I think they said that they brought out the first first vaccine was in the I don't know if it was late 60s, early 70s. Anyway, I did hear about a person it was in the United Kingdom. I think they were from a family of, I don't know, I believe they were Asian of some sort, Indian or Pakistani, not that matters, but apparently the father had been abusing the child, his daughter, and ended up getting her pregnant, and in order to save himself, he had his daughter sent away to a psychiatric hospital where she was kept, given all sorts of medication, probably had her fetus aborted. But yeah, it just shows that some people that end up in psychiatric wards weren't necessarily there for, because that's one example. Anyway, we'll carry on.
What organs did you harvest from these fetuses?
Well, I didn't personally harvest any, but a whole range of tissues were harvested by co-workers.
Okay. And these pieces were then cut up into little pieces, right?
Yes.
And they were cultured?
Yes.
Okay. Some of the pieces of the fetuses were pituitary gland that were chopped up into pieces to okay, included the lung of the fetuses?
Yes.
Okay, included the skin?
Yes.
Kidney?
Yes.
Spleen?
Yes.
Heart?
Yes.
By the way, look at Stanley's hands fidgeting. He is not comfortable answering these questions.
And tongue?
I don't recall, but yeah, probably yes.
So,
By the way, that's a pretty well-developed child, isn't it? They said that they were all over 3 months. And I mentioned they took the fetuses from women probably were deemed to have psychiatric issues, but social issues, what does that mean? The poor? People that can't afford to pay, oh, who knows?
I just want to make sure I understand. In your entire career, and this was just one study, so I'm going to ask you again. In your entire career, how many fetuses have you worked with?
Well, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a few when we were studying them originally, before we decided to use them to make vaccines.
So before they were even considered for use with vaccines, this guy was studying and working on fetuses. It goes beyond words.
Do you have any sense? I mean, this one study had 76. How many other studies did you have that you used aborted fetuses for?
Oh, I don't remember how many.
You're aware? Are you aware that one of the objections to vaccination by the plaintiff in this case is the inclusion of aborted fetal tissue in the development of vaccines, and the fact that it's actually part of the ingredients of vaccines?
Yeah, I'm aware of those objections. The Catholic Church has actually issued a document on that which says that individuals who need the vaccine should receive the vaccines regardless of the fact, and that...
By the way, I remember this bit from the first time I watched it. Stanley's about to say something. He says, "Don't worry, guys, I'm going to go to hell for you," or words to that effect. It was a good few years back that I first watched this video. But he says, "Well, I'm an atheist anyway, so I don't care. I'll go to hell for you."
I think it implies that I am the individual who will go to hell because of the use of aborted tissues, which I am glad to do.
Okay. Do you know if the mother is Catholic?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But she should consult her priest.
If she has if she's in fact Christian, I guess, right? In any event.
What an insult. Oh, if you don't like using these vaccines, consult your priests. Catholics are saying, yeah, it doesn't matter how this vile, disgusting product was made. It doesn't matter how harmful it is to you. Take it anyway.
So we have 76 in this study. Would you approximate it's been a few hundred fetuses?
Oh, no, I don't think it was that many.
Okay.
It was probably not many more than in this paper.
Uh-huh.
I doubt that very much. One study in which he claimed wasn't even linked to him developing a vaccine, and he used 76 in that study. I would very much... I'm guessing he's hoping that Stanley hasn't got any information to the contrary, where he says it's probably just a few more than this one.
And I should stipulate that we had nothing to do with the cause of the abortion.
Mm-hmm.
No, Stanley, I'm sure you offering money to the places had nothing to do with them deciding that they needed fetuses. Absolutely not. Bear in mind the money that we found out in previous parts, that they made 20 billion a year from I think the previous financial year to this, 2017. I think they made 20 billion. There's huge gross amounts of money is made from this product.
Some of these were for psychiatric institutions, correct?
Actually, all I can say is that the fetuses that I personally worked with actually came from Sweden, from a Swedish co-worker. And so I, in no case, was able to determine what exactly the reason for the abortion was.
hang on, did he say a Swedish co-worker gave him the fetuses? That surely can't... I mean, that wasn't her fetuses. She didn't continually get herself pregnant just to use the fetuses for research. Surely not.
Just asking you, some of the fetuses that you did use did come from abortions from people who were in psychiatric institutions, correct?
I don't know that. What I'm telling you is that I got them from a coworker, and if it's stated in the paper, it's true, but otherwise I do not know.
Okay, so if it's in the paper, you don't contest it, right?
I don't contest it, no.
Okay. Have you ever used orphans to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
By the way, that line should be very familiar to anyone that's been watching The Second Sign for the last few months, because that question there, have you ever used orphans to study experimental vaccines? And Stanley happily says yes. I mean, just think. The reason, I'm guessing, they're going to say, well, it was fine to use orphans, if he's even questioned about it. Not because they're vulnerable and they haven't got any parents to challenge us doing such, testing a product, but they all came from the same sort of background. Therefore, it's, he would maybe consider them all being orphans to give them all a baseline, as it were, a variable.
Have you ever used the mentally handicapped to study an experimental vaccine?
I don't.
What Stanley is actually doing now, while he takes quite a while to answer this question, is he's trying to think, he's not thinking, did I ever study the mentally handicapped? He's thinking, is there any reports or documents that my name would be attached to, which would, which can confirm it? If he can get away with, if he doesn't think anyone knows about it, then I think he's going to say, no, I never did that.
Recollect ever doing studies in mentally handicapped individuals. At the time, in the 1960s, it was not an uncommon practice.
So, you're saying, I'm not clear on your answer, I'm sorry. Have you ever used the mentally handicapped to study an experimental vaccine?
What I'm saying is I don't recall specifically having done that, but that in the 1960s it was not unusual to do that, and I wouldn't deny that I may have done so.
Okay. I've already marked this.
I know, but that was wrong.
Okay.
That's the task force.
I'm going to read you a sentence from what's been previously marked as
No, that wasn't it.
Exhibit 7.
That's not what got marked as Exhibit 7. That got, the task force was 7.
Oh.
So this should be 42.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
That in the background, by the way, is the voice of Amy Ruby, the co-counsel for the mother who does not want her child vaccinated.
Okay. So, and well, in any event, you're not denying that you there's an article entitled "Attenuation of RA27.3 Rubella Virus in WI38 Human Diploid Cells." Are you familiar with that article?
Yes.
In that article, one of the things it says is 13 seronegative, mentally retarded children were given RA27.3 vaccine.
Okay, well, then that's, in that case, that's what I did.
Okay. Have you ever expressed that it's better to perform experiments on those less likely to be able to contribute to society, such as children with handicap, than with children without or adults without handicaps?
I don't remember specifically, but it's possible. And again, I repeat that in the 1960s, that was more or less common practice. I've since changed my mind, but that was a long time ago.
So Stanley has now changed his mind that, it used to be commonly held thought that, using the mentally handicapped is perfectly acceptable. They're not going to contribute anything to society, so we'll just make them possibly incredibly ill, possibly even end their lives early. But he now disagrees with that. So Stanley, would you not say any product that's come about from such a horrible practice as studying on the mentally handicapped, would you really want to support that product?
Do you remember ever writing to the editor of Ethics on Human Experimentation?
I don't remember specifically, but I may well have.
Okay. I'll mark this. Yeah. I'm going to hand you what's marked as Exhibit 43. Do you recognize this letter you wrote to the editor?
Yes.
Okay. Did you write this letter?
Yes.
Okay. This is one of the things you wrote. The question is whether we are to have experiments performed on fully functioning adults and on children who are potentially contributors to society, or to perform initial studies in children and adults who are human in form but not in social potential.
Yes.
Okay. It may be objected that this question implies a Nazi philosophy, but I do not think that it is difficult to distinguish non-functioning persons from members of ethnic, racial, economic, or other groups.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever used babies of mothers in prison to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Have you ever used individuals under colonial rule to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.
Yeah, by the way, these are all vulnerable people. People that, for one reason or another, couldn't object to their children being treated in such a way. Disgusting.
Did you do so in the Belgian Congo?
Yes.
Did that experiment involve almost 1 million people?
Well, all right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you?
Oh, he seemed like he was going to object, and then was like, "All right, yeah, you've got me, Aaron." It did indeed 1 million people we treated like second-class citizens and guinea pigs, basically.
Did you ever visit what was the Belgian Congo and Urundi?
Yes.
How many times?
Once.
Yes. RUANDA-URUNDI. When was that visit?
1959.
And how long were you there?
A couple of months.
2 months?
I think so, yes.
Could it have been longer?
No, I don't think it was
2 months.
longer than that.
What places did you visit?
What was then called Leopoldville, Stanleyville,
Stanleyville, that wouldn't have been named after him, would it?
Kivu.
Kivu?
Yes.
Kivu?
Yes, Burundi.
Okay.
Miss Newsom, are you back?
I am.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Laura, in your absence, Stanley's had to... Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. It's not funny. It's horrible. Stanley's had to come out and basically talk about all the fetuses he's worked on. Okay, but yeah, the co-council's back. Whether that will make much difference, we'll see. Stanley doesn't seem to think he needs her there.
There could have been a couple of other places, but I don't remember.
Okay. I've heard you talk. I've heard in some of your speeches. You remember this trip fondly, right?
Well, fondly may not be the right word, but I do remember it as an important event.
Yeah. In what order did you visit the places you just told me? Which one do you think you visited first?
Leopoldville.
Okay, and then after that?
Stanleyville.
Then?
Then the eastern part of the Congo.
Is that Kivu?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bukavu.
Is that before or after Burundi?
Before.
Can you spell those?
Can you spell Bukavu?
Bukavu.
So Leopoldville, then Stanleyville, then Kivu, Bukum, and then Burundi. So how long were you in Leopoldville?
Oh gosh, I can't answer that question.
Approximately?
I don't remember. A couple of weeks probably.
Okay, and then how long in Stanleyville?
I don't know, 3-4 weeks. I can't possibly remember that.
This is probably where we'll find out he was actually in the Belgian Congo for a lot more than 2 months, as he claimed.
Far back.
And then how long in Kivu approximately?
Oh, short time.
Okay, and then Bakum?
I'm sorry?
Bukum?
Oh, Bukavu?
Bukavu.
Bay. Pronunciations aren't matching up.
Oh, B-U-K-U-V.
Bukavu.
A-A-V-U, sorry. Bukavu? Approximately how long?
A couple of days.
Okay, and then finally Burundi?
Again, I don't know, maybe a week, I'm not sure.
Okay. What were you doing in Leopoldville?
I was examining the data on oral polio vaccination in the city.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Did you?
Oh, I'm not sure, Stanley. You sounded a little bit like, yeah, you were there for. We'll see. But no, like a naughty child being asked if he's snatched the biscuits out of the cupboard. No.
Vaccinate anybody?
Personally, no.
Okay. How about what were you doing in Stanleyville?
I was visiting the chimpanzee laboratory and talking to scientists in Stanleyville.
Talking about what?
Well, about polio mainly.
Okay, what about polio?
What about polio? Obviously, they were having polio, and we're talking about how to protect the people against polio.
Okay. And did you vaccinate anybody while you were in Stanleyville personally?
Personally, no.
Okay. What did you do in Kivu?
As I recall, I just visited the place.
Any purpose?
I don't think so, no.
Did you vaccinate anybody
That
personally?
was
I'm sorry.
scenic area.
Okay. Did you vaccinate anybody personally there?
No.
Okay. What about Bukavu?
I did not do any vaccination there either.
And what were you doing there?
I was just visiting.
Like a tourist?
Yes.
Same thing with Kivu as a tourist?
Yes.
And what about Burundi?
Well, there I had some discussions with scientists.
Okay, about what?
About polio.
Okay. Did you, other than that, did you do anything else in Burundi?
No.
Did you vaccinate anybody personally?
No.
Okay. During your entire trip, did you vaccinate anybody personally?
No.
So your whole trip to Belgian Congo and Rwanda, Burundi, you never vaccinated anybody personally?
That is correct. I also stopped in Kikwit, which was to observe a vaccination campaign.
And that was between what cities?
Well, geographically, it's between Leopoldville and Stanleyville. I don't recall in what order I visited it.
You don't know if it was before or after Stanleyville?
No, I don't.
How long were you in Kikwit?
Well, just a day or two.
And that was just to observe a
Vaccination campaign.
Did you observe a vaccination campaign in any of the other cities?
Stanleyville, probably. Leopoldville was, as I said before, to collect data from prior vaccination.
Okay, yeah, by the way, we are going to be bringing this stream to a halt on the clock at the minute. We got 17:44 at the bottom of the screen. It says January 11th, 2018, 17:44. We're going to keep going probably till about 17:50, and then that'll give us just under an hour to play in part 10. So, yeah, we will carry on as Stanley's questioned on his visit to Rwanda.
Okay. And what were you doing in Rwanda, Urundi?
Talking to people.
Again, about polio vaccine?
Yes.
By the way, body language, he's well aware he's being filmed and he's actually covering his mouth now. Often someone does, if they're discussing something that they're not 100% comfortable saying, they will cover their mouth, or they'll maybe try and distract you with hand gestures or rattling their fingers on the table. If they're saying something they're not comfortable, doesn't necessarily mean they know it's untrue, but yeah. So body language, always worth looking at.
But not vaccinating anybody?
No.
Not part of any vaccination campaign there either?
No.
Okay. Do you believe that someone can have a valid religious objection to refusing a vaccine?
No.
Do you take issue with religious beliefs?
Yes.
Okay. You have said that, quote, vaccination is always under attack by religious zealots who believe that the will of God includes death and disease?
Yes.
You stand by that statement?
I absolutely do.
Okay. Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, throughout all of this, he's again covering his face. Yeah, Stanley believes he is an authority. Bear in mind, this is a man who took the fetuses of, well, maybe not personally, but he worked with people who took the fetuses of women in prison, women in psychiatric wards, women from poor backgrounds or placed under colonial rule. Of course, he's not going to want to accept for 1 second the existence of a God, that he may actually have to answer for some of his behaviour. So while he covers his face, probably in shame, yes, Stanley's absolutely going to tell us, for his own convenience, that God doesn't exist. Stanley, by the way, do not give your... do not allow someone such as Stanley to be your authority on the existence of God. Work out for yourself whether one exists. For me, it's just as simple as seeing creation. Try having creation without a creator. But anyway, we'll carry on and let Stanley talk for a few more minutes, and then we'll be wrapping the stream up for the night.
Do you accept that some people hold religious beliefs that are inherently unprovable?
Yes, I'm sure they do.
Okay. You said that, quote, vaccination is always under attack by a legal system that profits from the failure of most people to understand risk-benefit ratios or public health issues. Correct?
Yes.
Can you explain what you mean by that shortly?
I mean that the risk from vaccines, for example, is considerably less than the risk from disease, but people don't necessarily understand that. It's similar to the situation where people may not fly, but they're willing to drive in cars, where the risks are much higher. And what was the second point about
Public health issues.
Public health issues, yes. Not understanding the importance of a high vaccination coverage in prevention of disease.
One child can make a difference.
One child probably doesn't make a difference, but a collection of one child's do make a difference.
I think what he's saying there, what he's actually coming out and saying is that a child singularly on its own. Now, of course, he's saying about he believes everyone should be using his product. His product should be injected into 1-day-old babies. That without his product, the risk of people getting ill is just too much. No one should catch a cold. No one should have measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough. It's just not something Stanley wants to see.
At the most recent ACIP meeting, you spoke and gave ACIP 3 pieces of advice, correct?
Yes.
Right. One of them was to conduct more vaccine safety studies to prove the anti-vaccinationists wrong, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. If the science to prove vaccines safe already exists, why would more safety studies be needed to prove the anti-vaccinationists wrong?
Because there are so many people, as you can see on the web, who have these beliefs about vaccines, and as we have discussed throughout this long day, it would be valuable to have more safety data.
So who really has the belief there on vaccines? Stanley, without any data to back up his claims, without any evidence to the contrary, just considers his product perfectly safe, despite having gone into being forced to point out some of the risks there are with using vaccines. He just believes that they're for the good. People, as he calls them, anti-vaccinators or whatever, just don't want to use your product, Stanley. That's all it is. They'll take the risk. They're not afraid of catching German measles. They're prepared to get ill. They'd rather put their faith in God than in your product. They would rather put their faith in their God-given immunity rather than into a product in which it involved children being aborted probably against the wishes of the parents. It's nasty stuff. His product comes from, again, the Holy Scriptures tell us not to eat pork or take, that pig's an unclean animal. Also, we're told that blood shouldn't be taken in any way. And yet, he told us, the ingredients for blood, serum or whatever technical language they used for it, is in these vaccines. But still, no one should have a religious exemption or an exemption based on their theological outlook on life.
Like a vaccinated versus unvaccinated study, correct?
If such a study is feasible.
Okay. Shouldn't vaccine safety studies be done for the sake of making vaccines safer, not for the purpose and with the predetermined objective of proving so-called anti-vaccinationists wrong?
Oh, absolutely. I do not deny that there are known reactions to vaccines. Fortunately, they are rarely serious, but I support more research on every aspect of vaccines.
Only so he can shut up the people that are recommending against using his product. That's the only reason he wants these safety tests done. Nothing to do with making his product safer. Just do a study which we can then shut these people up with.
The claim that they're rarely serious is from your book, right?
Yes.
Okay. When's the last time that you received a vaccine, Dr. Plotkin?
Influenza vaccine. Actually, not more than several weeks ago.
Do you get the flu shot every year?
Yes.
You ever missed a year?
No.
Have you received the zoster vaccine? It sounds like you have.
Yes.
The what vaccine?
The zoster, ZOSTER. When did you receive that?
I've received now 2 doses, and I'm looking forward to receiving the new zoster vaccine as soon as I can buy it.
Have you received a PCV13 vaccine?
Yes.
Have you received a PPSV23 vaccine?
Yes.
Hep B vaccine?
Yes.
Let me do that again. Have you received a Hep B vaccine?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you received a hepatitis A vaccine?
Yes.
Have you received a MEN ACWY or MPS V4 vaccine?
I believe so. That was a long time in the past because those vaccines have been available for a long time. I'd have to check my records, but I think particularly when I traveled to Africa, I believe I took it.
Have you received a MEN B vaccine?
Not yet, no.
Have you received a Hib vaccine?
Oh, Hib, well, I was long past the age of Hib when it was developed.
When's the last time you got a tetanus diphtheria containing vaccine?
Oh, within the last 10 years. I don't remember exactly when, but...
Do you think all adults should be required to receive all vaccines on the CDC's adult immunization schedule?
That's somewhat of a difficult question because adults, of course, have the ability to make their own decisions. Tetanus is a vaccine that, how shall I put it? I guess it's a choice whether you're willing to be susceptible to tetanus or not. For pertussis, I think there's increasing reason to say that all adults should be vaccinated against pertussis. So it's, let's say, open to discussion at this point for DTAP anyway.
Okay, that is where we're going to leave this stream. I'll just make a note of the time we've got on there. We're at 17:51:07, and providing YouTube don't take another one of my videos down, we will be back next week. Because I got a suspension from uploading onto YouTube. We'll hopefully be back next week where we will be watching the last 52 minutes of this legal deposition. It just leaves me here in the United Kingdom. It's getting close to midnight, and my ability to function does start decreasing the later it gets, and I start making mistakes. I forget to put my I leave myself on mute, for example, or I do something else that's a bit daft. So we will finish just by me saying thanks to anyone who's taken the time to watch this stream. There's a name of a few people on the screen now that I would also like to extend my thanks to for checking out some of the links that I leave in the description. The only place you'll find them, of course, is over on Rumble, though, because I don't put links on YouTube anymore, outside of YouTube. Thanks to the people on the screen. If you've enjoyed this stream and you want to show your appreciation, I would request that you would hit the thumbs up button before you leave this evening. I'm going to put a link to... I'm not sure if that intermission video we put up about Martin Hatton the Fourth Wall, it probably is up on YouTube, but if it isn't, then if it's available, I'll make sure there's a link on the screen. Okay, if I don't make it back before Thursday, I will be going live again on Thursday evening, where I will probably follow up on the video I did that I uploaded in the week, where I suggested Coronation Street shared medical misinformation. Right. Let's see if I can find that one. Okay. Yeah, we're going to leave it there. Thanks to anyone who has tuned in and watched, even if no one's wanted to be particularly talkative in the live chat this evening. That's fine. I don't think I would have got up on screen anyway. Okay. Hope you can make it back for the next stream or the next video or whatever comes next. We'll be back next Sunday, God willing, with part 10, which will be the final part. And we've also got a quiz coming up. Is this quiz related? Yeah. For example, this is the sort of questions we'll be asking following the completion of this watch along. Things like, what's the safety testing period for the Recombi vaccine? The hepatitis B, that is. Yeah, if you want to catch up, make sure you give yourself a chance, then check out the links in the description. Okay, where are we? Right, as I said, thanks for taking the time to watch. Hope you make it to the next one. Have a wonderful week. Hope you get a good start of the week. And I'm going to say over and out, good night.
Have you ever used orphans to study an experimental vaccine?
Yes.